Welcome to the GTN show. Well, since we filmed last week, the T100 in France has had some controversy that has been unfolding. In particular, we will be focusing on Hayden Wilde's shoes and Tommy Fury's race data. All will become clear, I promise. But the main feature this week, it is, of course, Ironman World Championship's race week. It's the men's event this coming Sunday. And earlier, James joined me for a deep dive looking at all of the contenders. And then all three of us will be sharing our podium predictions.
It's championship season, kicking it off this weekend with the men's Ironman World Champs for the last time hosted in Nice before 2026 sees the Ironman World Champs return to its spiritual home in Kona.
Yeah, well first, if you haven't seen the last two editions, the course. The swim, 3.8 kilometres in the crystal clear Mediterranean, most likely non-wetsuit, almost certainly for the pros and actually probably for everybody.
Yep, and then the bike, a single 180 kilometre loop through the Alps Maritimes with roughly 2,400 metres of climbing, punchy ascents and climbs in the first third and technical descents in the last third. The triathlon idiom of bike for show, run for dough doesn't really apply on this course. The bike is the crux of the event. I mean, they'll still have to run exceptionally well to take the title, but you have to be in it to win it. And on this course, any weaknesses on the bike means you almost certainly won't be in it.
Yeah, and then the run. I mean, 4 laps of a completely flat, fast 42.2 kilometre route along the iconic Promenade des Anglais, hopefully under coastal sunshine.
Yeah. On to the contenders. As usual, and despite other series pulling pro triathletes' attention, the Ironman World Champs has attracted all of the biggest names in the sport, except Lionel. He's a big name, evidenced by the fact that I only have to use his first name. Anyway, it really seems like this is a year of going all in on Nice.
Yeah, okay, let's start with Sam Lado, the defending champion from 2023. And he's obviously known for attacking the race, especially on the bike. He does hold the fastest bike split in Kona history. And he comes into Nice with strong wins at Challenge Roth and most recently Ironman Leeds. Now, his season had a late start after somewhat mysterious struggles through the off-season, but he seems to have peaked at just the right moment. He's maybe the one to beat, albeit as unpredictable as ever.
Yeah, or is he? Or is Christian Blumenfeld the one to beat? 2021 Ironman World Champion, Olympic gold in Tokyo. He dominated Ironman Texas earlier this year with a 7:24 and Ironman Frankfurt with a 7:25 and an impressive 2-hour 30 marathon split. He's been altitude training in Font Romeu and has spent time in Nice learning the course, which doesn't bode well for his competitors. He has made no secret that Nice is his primary goal this year. He has foregone any T100 or any other distractions this year. It is all about this race.
Magnus Dilev, I think third in Nice in 2023, second in Kona in 2024, and last time he brought a dropper post on a TT bike to this event. No word if he's dusting that piece of tech off or not, but he'll be well prepared. He's been quiet this year, and admittedly, he did win Ironman South Africa in March, but despite having won it 3 years in a row, he skipped Roth and then opted for Frankfurt instead, which saw him finish a distant 8th to Blumenfeld. But that may be part of the plan. He's previously lamented being on world-beating form in July and being narrowly beaten later at the World Champs.
And then there's Patrick Lange, 3-time Ironman World Champ in 2017, 2018 and 2024, and the runner-up at Nice in 2023. He returned mid-season this year from injury to finish 7th at Frankfurt and then focused exclusively on Nice. If he emerges from the bike within probably 8 minutes of the leaders, his closing run could steal the day with his devastating run speed. Bearing in mind, of course, that Christian Blumenfeld ran a 2-hour 30 in the Frankfurt course. He's just turned 39 though, giving away over 12 years to 2 of the 3 favourites we've already mentioned.
And then we have another Norwegian, Gustav Iden, who won Kona in 2022, and he has twice won the 70.3 World Champs, including the 2019 version in Nice, so we know he performs well here. And when he is on form, he is almost unbeatable at long-distance triathlon. Well, a 13th at Texas and a 4th at Frankfurt has showed that he's moving in the right direction this year after that long layoff, but he has raced against the clock to be ready for this race. Is he ready? We'll find out on Sunday.
Yep. So what about the rest? Rudy von Berg from the USA lived nearby when he was young, 4th in Nice in 2023, 3rd in Kona in 2024. He knows this terrain like few others.
Yeah, we've got Leon Chevalier, Pro Series leader, albeit counting 5 races against almost everyone else's 4 races. 5th in Nice in 2023, 4th in Kona in 2024. And we know he loves hilly courses, but already 3 fulls and 4 halves into the season. How much form does he have left to hold on to for that Pro Series lead?
We wonder. And then there's Martin van Riel, the T100 specialist with Ironman-sized dreams. He won a 70.3 in Nice earlier this year in something of a course recon, but has publicly spoken about mental and physical struggles just to make the start line in Nice this year.
Yeah, we've got Christian Hogenhau, fresh off the fastest ever Ironman bike split at the European Champs, powerful climber and up-and-comer with podium potential. Now, I feel like we should read through the rest of the names just so we don't forget anyone who ends up doing well, but we're not going to do that today.
Yeah, it's the World Champs. I mean, it's pretty much a given that some of our contenders will withdraw, if not before the race starts, then probably during it.
And someone we haven't mentioned will have a blinder and surprise us all.
Yeah, and that is exactly why we, like you should, will be tuning in to watch it all unfold on Sunday. Mark is actually out in Nice, so if you are watching it in person, look out for him there. As in, look out for him so you can say hi, not look out for him, beware of him, he's dangerous.
Well, thanks, James, for his contribution. And as we promised at the start, we're obviously going to share our own predictions. Now, James has left his for me to share with you guys. So he thinks that Christian Blumenfeld is going to win. Magnus Ditlev, he's got down as 2nd. And then Sam Laidlow in 3rd. Now, Mark has been a little bit vaguer, and I think that's why he wants to actually do a piece rather than just give me the names, because he's changed his mind a few times. So let's see what Mark's got to say.
Okay, I've just arrived in Nice. Gone for a little run up to a little viewpoint overlooking Nice. We've got a big week of filming ahead. But first off, my predictions. I'm going to shock something. I'm going to go pretty rogue here. My top 3, I'm going to go Christian Blumenfeld for the win, Patrick Lange for 2nd, Gustav Iden for 3rd. I also think we might see Martin van Riel doing something quite impressive on the bike and surprising us all given where he's been. I'm not sure whether he'll hang on for the run, but I'd love to see that. Schomburg, I think, will be also very impressive, and obviously we can't forget Sam Laidlow. Basically, I've just done a top 6, so there we go.
Okay, well, I guess I've got the benefit of seeing both of those two, but I'm not influenced by Mark or James. I did actually write these predictions down before hearing from those guys, and admittedly, I've moved them around a few times because, my goodness, there are probably 5, aren't there, that could go on that podium, but I am putting Sam Laidlow as number 1. I just think he's got such a great track record on that course. Christian Blumenfeld, I mean, he's just so hard to look past, isn't he? But I'm putting him in 2nd, and then Patrick Lange, who just from a bit of insight, I know he's in good form and he's had a good training block. So yeah, those are my 3. If you guys want to get involved, please let us know your predictions in the comment section down below. Well, moving on with other things that have caught the eye of the triathlon world, and it's all coming out of the T100 in Frise, which was now almost 10 days ago, but the sort of controversies have been trickling ever since. Now, it was first spotted, I think Pro Tri News was the first time I saw it on their Instagram, where they zoomed in or kind of took a clip of a conversation that Hayden Wilde was having after the race with his running coach that was actually heard on the live feed, even though the commentators were talking over it. And there's only a few clips we can hear. You can actually go and have a look at their post. They've still got it up there just to have a listen to what Hayden is saying. And I'll let you have a listen of that before we delve into exactly what's going on here. But basically, it turns out that Hayden Wilde was running in a shoe that is called the Asics Metaspeed Ray that isn't yet released to the public. It is a prototype. Now, some prototypes are allowed in certain circumstances if they've been approved by World Athletics. To give you the background, World Triathlon take the rules from World Athletics now, so our shoes have to be 40 mil or less track height, they're only allowed 1 carbon plate, all of the above. You guys are aware of that, I'm sure. So these shoes do actually comply with that, but that is not the point, because ASICS sent an email to all of their athletes who've been given this prototype that they are not allowed to wear it in a race because they could be at risk of being disqualified from the 1st of August until the 11th of September. We're obviously still in that window. The T100 London was in that window, as was the T100 in France. Now, this email was evidently sent to Hayden. Whether he read it or not, we don't know. But from this clip, it doesn't sound great for him, because it does sound like he's aware they're a prototype and he just thinks that nobody would notice. But that is obviously not taking into account the power of the internet and a short clip that has now been probably listened to many, many times. So the shoe is going to be legal in a fact that there's no cheating from what he's actually gaining from it, because it's about to be available to the public to buy, and therefore it'll be on the listings for World Triathlon. There's a little bit of a complication or an inconsistency, I suppose, in the fact that T100 is run alongside World Triathlon, or comes under the World Triathlon rules. But for a WTCS race, like Hayden was racing the very next day, they test all of the equipment on the pros, but at the start of the race. So the shoes will be tested, the swim skins, everything. But apparently in a T100, they don't actually copy those rules. So it seems that Hayden might have been aware that his kit was not going to be tested because he wore a different pair of shoes the next day before all of this came out. So it does then sort of make you read this statement from Hayden with maybe a little bit of skepticism, or is that just me? I don't know. But he has responded to all of this. I think he had no choice but to, and he's put out this post saying, "Since the start of the year, I've been racing in approved ASICS prototype shoes." Yes, obviously saying some are approved, including his win in T100 London. To be clear, these prototypes were fully approved and listed with World Athletics and are fully compliant. Yes, we're aware of that, obviously. Now, this is the point to note. At the weekend, however, I raced in the new Metaspeed Ray, believing it was the same prototype I've been using all season. It was an honest mistake I only realised after the race. While my partner ASICS emailed me, so he admits that he got the email, said he didn't read it, and he finishes off by saying, "I'll definitely be spending more time reading my emails." I bet he will, because I feel like that's maybe a bit of a PR statement that he's probably had a bit of help scripting and making sure that he gets the tone just right. So whether he did only find out at the finish, we won't know. We know that he was aware of it at the finish. Some people have pointed out Hayden's not the only one who's made this mistake. Sam Long was also wearing these said shoes at the T100 London, still in that window of being not legal, hence, well, I guess illegal, and could be disqualified. But all eyes have been on Hayden because he's the fastest runner. Lots in his defence, including the likes of Jan Frodeno, are saying that, well, he would have won if he was wearing Crocs, which is probably true, but that is not the point. If we have rules, we want to see that the pros are abiding by them. They hopefully are setting the example for the rest of us to follow, especially if they know about it. So now we're just going to wait and see. No protest can be made. A protest has to be made within an hour after a race. So that obviously window has well passed. There is a caveat. Apparently World Triathlon do have the power to retrospectively make some penalty or disqualification if new evidence is brought to light to them. So whether they'll count this as new evidence, we don't know. I think the T100 are quite happy to brush this under the carpet and move on. So it's a little bit up in the air. But T100 haven't been doing too well out of the off the back of the race in France, because Tommy Fury is their second controversy. So you might have, if you watched the show last week, Mark and James were talking about Tommy Fury, who's the boxer who's sort of lending his hand at a bit of running and triathlon recently, went and entered the T100. And the T100 were enjoying, I guess, the partnership and inviting Tommy Fury along with his 5-point-something million followers to really help promote triathlon and, get it across to the wider audience. And it certainly did that. They shared a reel of him running across the finish line, which is its own sort of conversation because his running technique is interesting. I mean, Tommy is quite open, putting his hand up and saying, yeah, you can laugh at me. However, the bit that I now find in retrospect a little bit grating is he says, yeah, I'd like to see how you would run at the end of doing a 100-kilometre triathlon. It turns out he didn't do a full 100-kilometre triathlon. This is what makes it even worse. And I went back and checked, and he hasn't removed that post. But Marathon Investigates, having looked at the stats, realised that basically he didn't finish the last portion of the bike. And it turns out that there were quite a few age groupers that didn't. But the T100 put out a quote saying that due to our permit for the road closures in France, unfortunately, Tommy and some other athletes in the 100k amateur race were unable to complete the bike course before the cut-off time, the organisation said. However, given our philosophy to grow the sport and encourage new athletes, we wanted to give them as full an experience as possible, so they were all given the opportunity to do the 18k run and cross the finish line. Now, I have no problem with that, and I don't think anybody does. But when it comes to lying, that is a different matter. And I don't know if Tommy didn't realise or he thought that was part of it. I can't really imagine that. But he crossed the line to be met by his fiancée who'd come to surprise him. And I imagine she didn't know either. Molly May was celebrating with their 2-year-old daughter at the finish line of Tommy completing this event. And he didn't. And I'm yet to see quite any reaction from Tommy, but obviously T100 have put their hands up and said, yes, we shortened it. They also haven't removed that clip of him running across the finish line and saying, well done to him. So I find that one a little bit uncomfortable. I'd love to know what you guys think about that, but I feel like we want the pros, we want the celebrities, the influencers to be representing our sport in the best way possible. And honesty is kind of one of those key pillars. What the tech now, and we have big news coming from Wahoo because they have 2 new launches coming out today together. So it is the launch of the new Kicker Bike Pro, obviously an upgrade from the Kicker Bike, and the Kicker Core 2. So no giveaways there. It is their latest version of the Kicker Core. So first, looking at the bike, it's got several changes, including intuitive new shifter controls, apparently making it easier to obviously ride indoors, but also making it easier to be able to use the apps that it's connected to without having to leave the handlebars. So that sounds like a pretty cool update coming from them. They've also worked with Physique, and they've got new saddle on there, new handlebar tape. So they've got the Physique Alliant R5 saddle, which apparently is there to add comfort, as well as a new ergonomic handlebar design specifically for indoor riding. I'm not quite sure what that looks like, what indoor riding, how it differs in the sense of what handlebar you want, but something that they've obviously really focused on. They've also made it so that there's more integration for incline simulation. And one aspect I quite like is the fact that you've got the downhill simulation, which when you're riding indoors, you do definitely miss that, don't you? You never get to freewheel. So it sounds like that's something that they have covered. As well as for those of you who are keen racers, they have the race mode just for making it more instantaneous for that power response. So a bike that ticks all boxes. It's got 5 areas for adjustability, and just, it's a great addition to your collection if you have one, and if you can, I guess, ride at home and have that option of sharing one bike without having to change, taking it on and off the kicker. So I've been looking forward to getting a go on that one. I'm sure it'll end up somewhere in the GTN office. We might be able to get a borrow of that one. Then there's the Kicker Core 2, which is one of the most popular turbo trainers out there at the moment. Well, the Kicker Core has been, and I can only imagine that the 2 is going to be even more so. Apparently, it's the first time they've upgraded it in 7 years since it launched in 2018. It doesn't seem that long ago that it launched, which is crazy. So there's quite a few differences in this one, a few that caught my eye. They've got integrating the data from your heart rate monitor, which can now stream directly through the trainer onto the apps. So basically working as a central sensor and reducing any setup with the friction. Also got multicolored LEDs, making it easier for riders to get started, making it clear status for the connectivity, ride readiness and diagnostics. And I think any of you who train indoors and you're putting your bike on in a hurry or you've got to take it off, all of those things are really important. And for those of you who are interested in the price points, well, the Kicker Bike Pro in the US dollar is $3,999. UK pounds, that comes in at $3,499. And for the Kicker Core 2, which is a very, I'd say, affordable price point, comes in for the US dollar $549 and the UK pound $499. I think a few of those might be being added to the Christmas wish list because they are now on sale. All right, it's on to race news, and it is 70.3 heavy this week. Starting off with Gérardmer XL in France. That is actually, if those of you are interested, I just had to look it up. It's a lake, a ski resort, so it's actually at 600 and something meters, and it's a beautiful looking lake. So the altitude is not enough to actually affect the performances, but when I saw the athletes that were performing well, I did wonder if it would be in the mountains, because it was won on the women's side by Alanis Siffer, and then second place Nina Deron, both Swiss athletes who do spend quite a bit of time training in Saint-Moritz, and Justine Gourard of France was third on the women's side. The men's race was won by Gregor Payet, and then it was French second and third for Clément Grandi and Louis Richard. Then we had 70.3 Poznan, and Rebecca Anderbury had an incredible race there for Great Britain. She had the fastest bike split by a considerable margin, a 2:06 on what apparently was a very true length course. So that is a rapid time. She won by almost 4 minutes, ahead of Francie Hoffman in second, and then Agnieszka Gadomska from Poland was third in that race. The men's side, it was won by Waldemar Solek, Vincent Hernandez second, and Henry Repo was third. Then we were over to the States. These names are going to be easier to pronounce for me because it was 70.3 Santa Cruz, and no surprises, it was a North American winner on the women's side. Tamara Jewett, in fact, taking her first victory in 2 seasons, so she'll be no doubt delighted with that. Unsurprisingly, had the fastest run of the day, 1:17 ahead of Jackie Herring in second and Grace Alexander in third. And then Sam Appleton was on top of the podium again. I think this is his third victory this season and apparently his 20th. I haven't added them all up, I just heard this. His 20th win of his career over 70.3 races. So that is quite some dominance, isn't it? Great to see him just having a great year again. Ahead of Trevor Foley in second and Ben Canute in third. Great to see him on the podium and having a strong season again too. And then our final 70.3 race from last weekend was Knockheist in Belgium, and that was won by Didi Didericks with the quickest bike ride. Justine Mathieu was second and Brigitte Tunison in third. And then Great Britain's Cameron Main won the men's race, and it looks like that is his first sort of pro win since moving to 70.3, so a great result for him. Dieter Comhair and Pamphile Perrien second and third respectively. And then obviously, in case you weren't sure, we have two races coming up this weekend, equally important. It is the men's Ironman World Championships, and then it is Weymouth 70.3. Yeah, don't worry, I am joking on this one. It is not a pro race. However, I will be there. And I'm only telling you this because if you guys are racing, please come and say hello, because I would love to, meet you guys, see who's out and about. It will be obviously a British heavy crowd. I am there making a video, so come and say hi to GTN. And now for Try Spy. Now we've gone from one extreme to the other. Mark and James previously made it a very hard Try Spy when last week only one person actually got the correct answer. Well, this week, apparently this was really easy for you guys because it feels like everybody has managed to get this one right. Well, everyone who's submitted a comment got it right, that's for sure. So we had this close up. But when you reveal all, it is Hella Geens. I think there's a giveaway with the PFNH coloured stripes on there. One person did think that he was drinking PFNH. It's actually, when you realise now, it is his sunglasses he has in his mouth. But I think 1S951 was the first with the correct answer, who, says Yellow Geens. Few of you, Abigail Newbold, spotted that it was at the T100 French Riviera, so you'd obviously seen your photos and spotted this one too well. We're going to have to get a little bit tougher, aren't we? T. Pelton, Hella Geens slurping some precision fuel and hydration. Well, you were close. I like the fact that you've gone for a bit of a guess there. But yeah, basically, all of you got it right. So congratulations on that one. I think we're going to go a little bit harder this week. Good luck. Say what? Apologies, it is a little high without the balance of the boys, but hey, I'm going to give it my full blast. So we have a few fun, interesting comments that I'm sharing this week from Mark's video where he went out to run as far as he can, just as far as he can, without stopping, without walking for more than 15 seconds, and most importantly, without any fuel. And a few that caught my eye. We've got Kibby Giver, who says, in a conference room at GTN Megabase, the video for Saturday release won't be ready. Mark, can you do something dumb and film it? You could expense a burger if you do. I mean, that is one way to get Mark to do something for sure, by teasing him with a burger. If you haven't watched the video, you will soon realise. Also, definitely going to be thinking, this is Ben Flinch, so definitely going to be thinking about a Schwartz Pros next time I'm on a long run. I think there'll be a few people that Mark has sowed that seed and they will be coming back to him, I'm sure. Andrew McAllister, Mark, this was a stupid idea and makes for a great video. Yeah, I felt the same watching that one with no intention of giving it a go. But well done to Mark for grueling it out for GTN on that one, and he deserves at least one burger. I think we could just about reach for that one. Well, like I said, coming up this week, all of this week, in fact, there will be content coming out from the Ironman World Championships in Nice. Mark is already down there. You can get involved if you want to get your hands on one of these T-shirts. We've relaunched these. These are I guess it's the season, isn't it, of World Championships. We've got Kona coming up after that and Marbella. So it's a pretty awesome season to get involved. Have a look on the GTN shop if you want to get your hands on one of these. And if you are out in Nice, well, go and find Mark, say hi, and maybe send a selfie and send it in to us. Thanks for watching.